If you are a successful entrepreneur who wants to lose weight, should you be running? In this video, I'm going to give you a couple good reasons for why that is a good idea, and probably a bit more, probably a longer list of reasons why running is not a good idea if you're trying to lose weight. And if you haven't already subscribed, click the button below, subscribe, because on this channel, I'm going to show you how to get that strong, ripped, high-performing seven-figure body without starvation, without steroids, and without cutting out carbs. All right, guys, welcome. This is Coach Amir from sevenfigurebody.com. In this video, I'm going to share a couple of ideas and conclusions that I've gotten to after, just to give you a very, very quick kind of background. I used to be a fat kid, and then for 6-7 years, I tried to do basically every diet that existed. This is back in the early 90s. There was no internet, there was no coaches, no YouTube, none of that. So basically it was just do everything wrong until you figure out something that at least a little bit works. That was kind of the approach. And one of the things that I've done a lot back in the day was running. Because of course what we have heard is, hey, if you want to lose weight, you have to do hours and hours and hours and hours of running every single day. Now, I tried that. I literally used to run, 1 to 2 hours every day, probably 5-6 days a week. And then, did that help? No, it did not help really at all. Why? Because the main reason that I didn't lose weight from that was because I did not know how to diet and what to do when it comes to dieting. And this is the number one thing that I want to share with you, which is when you're trying to lose weight, like actually, get the body fat lower and burn body fat off and get leaner. Of course, that's what we mean when I say lose weight. I don't mean, lose muscle or dehydrate yourself like most diets do. I mean lose body fat. So for that, diet is absolutely king. You need to be controlling your diet, the food and calories that you're consuming every day. That's where the biggest difference and results are going to come from. Not from running, not from, lifting weights, not from any other exercise really, for one main reason. First, all exercise types and modalities burn way fewer calories than we think. So, I used to run, for example, for an hour, and I'm like, I must have burned 1,000 calories. Now I can probably eat 3 pizzas because 3 pizzas are probably, less than that. No, they're actually 5 times the calories. And no, I didn't burn anywhere near 500. It's probably 400 calories, right? I didn't burn anywhere near 1,000, right? So it's always less than we think, number one. Number two, there is a concept called constrained energy model, which in short, it just means that all the calories that we burn from exercise don't actually go into that calories in, calories out equation. It is not that linear. So if you burn 1,000 calories, let's say by doing 2 hours of running, that does not mean that when you do the calculations and you're supposed to lose this much body fat, that you're actually going to lose that much. Recent studies showed that it's about 70% of that, which actually is what I've seen so far in the last 13 years with 1,150 clients. Coaching 1,150 clients, I've noticed that when we do steps, which is one of the ways that we burn calories, like overall activity and cardio, the fat loss is not linearly at the rate as the calorie burn. So this is something to really keep in mind. The other thing is, which is really, really important to know, that especially when it comes to running, if somebody is lifting also, so if we are running and lifting weights, so we're trying to do both, we're trying to, build muscle or at least save the muscle that we have, which is done through two things. Number one is enough protein. Number two is proper lifting. So if you are lifting weights and hopefully not, we're not skipping leg days, we're training legs, and you're also running, those two things do not go well together at all. There's another concept called interference effect, which simply means the physiological and neurological adaptations that the body needs to go through in order to build more muscle from lifting and or become more, let's say, cardio fit, if you will. These are basically completely opposite. They do not go well together. In short, if you try to both lift weights and do cardio, you're going to get results from both. You're much better off focusing on just one. So if you are an endurance athlete, and by the way, everything I'm going to say about running, please keep in mind, I used to be a professional triathlete. I used to live from triathlon. I was a pro triathlete, 3-time national champion. Then after that, I raced mountain biking. So basically in mountain biking for probably 8 to 9 years and done all the races from 6 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours, 100 milers. I am the biggest proponent of cardio and endurance sports that there is. However, specifically running in, again, specific situations is not the best idea. Why? Well, again, as I said, all the cardio activities will suffer from that constrained energy model, so you don't lose as much fat as the calorie burn tells you to. Number one. Number two, you don't even burn as many calories as you think you are. And three is, of course, running has one of the highest injury rates of all sports, simply because it is, remember, what is running? You're basically running is jumps, a series of jumps from one leg to the other. So my whole weight, and of course, this is especially true for people who are kind of on a bigger, heavier side. And I don't mean like overweight. You can be really fit. I'm, really, really fit, but I weigh 220 pounds. So when I'm running, 220 pounds is smashing that knee and then the other knee. And this is done hundreds and hundreds of times. And if you do that continuously, thousands and thousands of times, this leads to overuse injuries. Your ankles, knees, usually knees will pay for it first. Because remember, all of us have left and right side imbalances. So we are not perfectly balanced. We're not like standing like this, right? It's always your hips are a little bit like that, a little bit like that. We're talking millimeters of difference. But that means if you are tilted, let's say a little bit to the left, like I am, for example, that means every time I run, more of my weight is going to go onto that side. And that knee may be going a little bit more to the left than it should. Guess what's going to happen after enough times that I have done, smashing that knee, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times? What's going to happen? You just run out of the cartilage and that's done. In the corrective exercise world, they say cartilage wears out and it's done. Like there's no recovering of it. And yes, like all tissues, cartilage does recover and regenerate, but at such a slow rate that we can literally say it does not. So when you run out of that cartilage, you're done. You have to do a knee replacement or be in pain for the rest of your life, neither of which sounds like a good idea to me, right? I would much rather avoid that. So this is one of the many reasons why I really am not a fan of running anymore. And again, I used to run more than 100 kilometers per week during my triathlon career. Even when I ended that career, I used to run, I used to enjoy trail running a lot. I still do because I like being in nature, but simply, the chance of like twisting your ankle, hurt knees. And this is especially true for people who are on a heavier side. So it doesn't matter if you're in shape or not. If somebody's, let's say if you're a guy over 180, maybe 190 pounds, I simply would not suggest habitual running. On the other hand, especially in the, for example, racing world, like I can't tell you how many clients I've had over the last decade plus where the client is really fit, we're training, everything's going great, and they come all excited and say, "Coach, I have a great news." And I'm like, "Please God, just don't let it be that they decided to do a marathon." They're like, "I'm going to do a marathon." Yes. And I'm like, okay, there goes one knee. And I can't tell you how many times, despite my, of course, the only thing I do as a coach is I suggest, I don't tell you what to do, right? So I suggest not to do that. Yet they do it because it's cool, because, the friends are going to think highly of him and whatnot. And they get injured either in the prep for the marathon or during the actual marathon. And that knee usually ends up being messed up for years after that. And this is, I can't tell you how many times this has happened, and because of that, I simply do not suggest running for long periods of time. Now, of course, your probably running community is going to crucify this and be like, "What are you talking about?" And remember, at this time, I still have clients who are, quite a few of them, who are runners, and they still run. I'm not going to go and tell a runner, don't run. Obviously, that's never going to happen. If somebody told me when I was in triathlon, don't swim, bike, run, I'd be like, I don't care what it does, I'm still going to do it, right? If it's bad for me, I'm still going to do it. Just like cycling. I'm a cyclist. I'm going to be mountain biking for the rest of my life. It's the number one thing that I love the most. If somebody told me that was bad to do, I'd be like, well, I'm going to try to minimize the damage, but I'm still going to keep doing it. So I absolutely understand. So to the runners out there, I absolutely do not want to tell you don't run, like stop running and never run. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, for somebody who is thinking of running as a way of losing weight, you can absolutely give it a shot, but be aware of potential of injuries, because that risk is really high. The injury rate is really, really high in running. And also, when you combine both lifting and cardio, it is much better to do any other type of cardio. So it doesn't matter if you're doing cycling, elliptical, swimming, whatever else you're doing, it's not going to negatively affect your gains as much as running is, simply because of all of that eccentric movement that happens, and of course pounding on the knees, right, that happens during the run. So what I would suggest is actually take up or try cycling. It can be indoor, outdoor, it can be swimming, it can be any other cardio activity. And again, is it good to do some cardio? Absolutely. If you don't like it and really don't want to do any cardio, you don't have to. You can lose all the weight you want. Actually, I would say probably 90% of my clients do not do any cardio whatsoever, simply because either they don't like it or they think they don't have time for that. Whatever it is, we just work on their diet, they lose weight and get completely shredded. So you absolutely do not have to do cardio to lose weight. So I'm talking specifically about weight loss. If you're trying to lose weight, you do not have to do cardio at all. If you do like it and want to do it, the least or the last one that I would suggest doing is running. Having said all this, if you like running, then in that case, like I love cycling, I'm never going to stop doing it. So I absolutely, I'm okay with that. I would still say that's okay. But what I would suggest is to not run more than two to three times a week. Again, if somebody's really into running, that's going to be hard for them to do. I understand. But maybe think of, either devoting some of your running time to lifting, if you're not already doing that, and or maybe devote some of your running time to some other cardio activity like cycling, swimming, hiking, anything that is not just pure and only running. So those are my thoughts on running. They have absolutely changed in the last couple of years because I used to be a huge fan and ran all the time, and then my knees started to hurt and my hips started to hurt. When I turned 35, that's definitely when I started feeling it, because all the years of abuse and racing of my body, it's just it took a toll. And that's why I'm like, now it's all about not getting injured, and not running is one of the best ways of doing that. So guys, hope you like this video. If you haven't already subscribed, click the button below. And also, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about running? Do you run, and are you thinking of running? Do you find this video useful? What do you think? Just let me know whatever your thoughts are. Share in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.